All right. So we talked about one major issue that is polarizing. Uh, unless you have something in particular you want to jump to right now, I thought we could talk about Afghanistan.
Oh, let's go. I have no subjects pre.
Okay. So I have not been following this very closely, and it's on purpose because, as I said, it seems like every place you're getting information from, it's somebody who has a vested interest in a certain outcome.
Sure.
So, um, you and I, full disclosure, lived together when 9/11 happened.
West wife and I were just talking about that the other day. She said, "You were in Detroit, right?" I said, "Yes, I was."
Yeah. And I don't blame you for it at all. I don't blame you for 9/11. I hope you don't blame me for 9/11. We happened to be living together, but I think it
I
had
did for a
nothing to do
second,
with
but
it.
then I thought better on it.
So I don't want to get into the details of who were the perpetrators of 9/11, but as far as I know, there are 0 people from Afghanistan on those flights who caused that to happen. So we've been there for 20 years. We've heard horror stories of deaths on both sides. I mean, I've heard terrible things about improvised explosive devices taking out American troops under terrible, terrible circumstances. You know, being tricked into situations where they're ambushed and stuff. And I've also heard of native Afghanis being caught up in drone strikes and the like, and crossfires. And it's just to borrow a term from Vietnam, a quagmire that I don't know what we were doing there for the last, well, definitely 8 years, if not longer. Whenever Osama bin Laden was found, as I understand it, that's why we were there in the first place, was because of Osama bin Laden. And so when Biden took office and he said he was going to continue the plan to remove the troops, as Trump had originally said that was his plan, remove the troops. I was actually very pleasantly surprised that Biden did that.
Yep.
And after we got out and the Taliban immediately took over the country, and Biden said, this is why we're out. It's because
he said,
whatever we were doing,
why would we keep our why would we keep our people here when they won't even defend themselves? In a nutshell, I believe he said something very close to that, but yeah.
Yes. Yep. And I feel so strongly about that because I have thought about our Civil War back in the 1860s. How would we have felt if another country came in and started picking the winners and losers of our internal struggle, our Civil War? This is how people decide the fate of their country. If somebody else comes in, they're meddling in it. They can get it to go one way or the other, but it's not natural because they don't belong there in the first place. So once that outside influence leaves, then you're left with the same people who were originally going to go to war.
Mhm.
to decide how things were going to be. So that's what I think has happened in Afghanistan. The Taliban was the strongest power. We came in, pushed them aside, and we put in a government, or allowed a weaker government to take
Mhm.
over. And as soon as our hand is off that balance scale, then things go back to normal equilibrium, which is the strongest power in the region takes over. Now, they did it in a matter of hours. I
Well,
mean, it wasn't a week, it was hours, days
well,
before they
in
took over.
Kabul for sure. But I believe I had heard that to take over the entire nation took like 11 days.
Yep.
That's not, I mean, Taliban began, if I heard correctly, the Taliban began taking over the rural and outskirts type communities while the U.S. government was still in Kabul, and like they they began to shrink in. I know we're talking about catching fish again. They
Yeah.
began to they began to close in on while we were still paring down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I this is one of the instances where a lot of the people that I watch on YouTube, some of them are showing a political bias because they want to dirty Biden's hands with this. Others who, because I'm a Second Amendment supporter, there are people that I watch for Second Amendment stuff who they served in Afghanistan, not once, not twice, maybe 3-4 times, maybe even more. They have the burden of having to justify how they've their I don't want to call it a job when
The
you're in the
legacy.
military. Yeah, it's what they've done with their life. Their career is in part due to this, and nobody wants to feel like their job is
relevant, because that's really what it that
yeah.
I can understand how they would feel that way. Yeah, but and I don't think somebody should feel that way. Now, I've never been in the military, so it's easy for me, a non-military person, to say this, but I've seen a lot of rhetoric about of people that are in the military saying, you did this and you nullified all the lives that were lost on our side and all the hard work we did for this many years. But did we? Because in a vacuum, by pulling out these troops and seeing the installed government fall so quickly, in a way, aren't you endorsing what the military did rather than saying they failed? Saying is, while you were here, we had this. And now that you're not here, we don't.
Yeah, I guess our troops can brag that we were able to prop up a non-violent regime for 20 years.
Yeah.
and allow them to function in a war-torn region, because as soon as we left, it just it collapsed. So it was thanks to us. I guess that's a way to look at it.
There was a study or a media report that came out a day or two after Kabul fell, and one of the media members, which was the rights were being taken down for sure, although they were still able to do their job. They weren't being like arrested for doing the job, but the media members were being very, very careful how much out in the open they were. fearing that they would be arrested and imprisoned by the Taliban for doing media work. But the journalist was actually an Afghan, and I cannot remember his name. I cannot even remember his source. But if you were to internet search Afghan media member, he asked what did we call the installed regime? It had a royal term.
I don't know.
Let's say we called it the King's Army. It was some form of a royal term. But the Afghan media member asked some of these U.S. trained government troops, why did you give in? Why did you give in so quickly? And one of them said something that it had never crossed my mind, and it really did make me think. That person said, if we give in, then the Taliban goes to power without Chinese and Russian influence. Think about that. I never thought about that. That is an allied force. I think that's still a term. That's an allied force trained government / military person installed by the allied troops. And they fell quickly. Why'd you give up? Because if we give up, then the Taliban rises to power and you don't have to worry about China and Russia. There again, never in my wildest dreams would that have even crossed my mind. But that might be something that might be a discussion that it would be nice for the American media maybe to discuss, because that came directly from a royal guard or whatever they were called.
Now, that's very interesting, because I've been thinking about the U.S. approach to this nation building versus China. So the U.S., as we've seen in Korea, Vietnam, and here most recently in Afghanistan, we go in as a military, and this is how we promote our version of a free country. And
military force promotes democracy. Exactly.
Yeah. So when you look at how China has been doing this, you might have heard of their Belt and Road Initiative. Mm-hmm. And I am no expert on it, but my understanding is that they are using the seemingly endless funds that they get from supplying the entire world with goods and services. They're taking that money and they're going to weaker countries, third world countries. They're saying, we will put in your infrastructure. We will give you your water, electricity, roads in return. We ask that we have no tariffs from your country for shipping goods. We want to have perhaps not ownership, but a majority stake in these things that we've built up there. So we will have control over them. And so where the US has used the stick, China is using a carrot. And when you look at how we portray China as this communist regime, they're the ones who come in with the carrot, and the US, who's this bastion of freedom, we're the ones using tanks and bombers. It blows my mind. How are we the ones going into all these countries like this, and China's the one going in with humanitarian? And now I do not doubt that they've got ulterior motives.
Oh, sure, but you're right. uh, it's a it's a science fiction plot that comes up a lot in TV and movies. We come in peace. We want to work with you. What did the aliens in The Simpsons say? We want to meet you. You know, it's a plot as old as the imagination. Yes, they are going in there under the guides, it may work out, but under the guides of we're going to help you. We're going to help you do all these. We're going to turn you from a third world nation into a second world nation. And by the way, I don't know what that delineation is. I know what a first world nation is, and I know what a third world nation is, but I don't know what a second world nation is.
Yeah, it's like everybody skips that level. Either that or
Yeah.
they're just, I've never heard of anybody being called a second world nation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They go in and we're going to prop you up. Basically, you're going to grow, and your people are going to prosper for it. And no doubt, I am sure that works. And you're right; it is completely the opposite of what the United States is. Like, we're going to come in, we're going to use the largest conventional weapons known to man, and then we're going to put in our own government, and it's going to be exactly what we want.
Yep.
So, and then when it's time to leave, fail miserably. I have to admit, I am I am pleasantly surprised to hear you say, and I did not have a preconceived notion, but I'm pleasantly surprised to hear you say that you were pleased that Biden was continuing the troop withdrawal, because our own president, 45, not 46, 45 still can't tweet, but he figured out a way to get a statement out. And he was condemning the Afghan situation. He started the Afghan situation. I don't understand that. And there are good people, you and I, that are in favor of this. But
Yep.
He decided to take that moment to 45 decided to blast 46 for a plethora of reasons. The Afghan situation, the virus. Your 45 is going to blast 46 because of the virus? Come on. But I'm pleasantly surprised that you say that, because I think there are a lot of people that think it's time. If the Taliban rises to power, then we just deal with it. Because who are we to dictate what country has which government it has? So, yeah, I don't like the way it fell so quickly, and I don't really understand sending in more troops to remove troops. I don't understand that. But we're going to add 4,000 to remove them. That doesn't, like, to the best of my knowledge, and I pay attention to the internet. I watch a little TV. To the best of my knowledge, the peace has been kept in Afghanistan the last couple of weeks during this. So I know the Taliban's coming in and instilling their own government, but I don't believe American troops have been attacked. I don't believe Allied troops have been attacked. I don't believe innocent civilians have been attacked. I don't think so. I feel like if it had happened, it would have been major news. And I've heard none of that.
Yeah. So it's interesting you say that the Taliban had already taken over rural areas, because when I first heard that the Taliban, because I knew only that the U.S. was pulling out of Afghanistan September 11th. I thought it was a really bad date to list as, oh, this is the day that we're getting out.
Yeah, we don't need symbolism right now.
Yeah. But to broadcast that date, and then to have the Taliban taking over just weeks beforehand, why wouldn't they wait until we're gone, and then the US is not involved at all? So yeah. I had a strong suspicion that this was coordinated to prevent the US from leaving Afghanistan, as something to draw us in deeper. So, like you mentioned, 4,000 troops to get 1,000 troops out. I heard that we were sending 4,000, 5,000 troops into Kabul. And I was like, okay, here we go. This is us. We can't leave them now, not with what's going on. We've got to get in there, and for the sake of the people, we need to get in. So I will be very happy when every US troop is out of Afghanistan. So although Biden's saying the right things in my book, that we're staying the course, we're getting out, we don't have a vested interest, I will be very happy when I see that we're saying, okay, we're completely out, because I still think there's a chance that they're using this as an excuse to stay in, because I would love to get us out of every country that we're in, because I think we're doing the same thing as in every country that we're doing there, just spending money, because the people who make the decision to stay there, I think that there is that there's a benefit to them to have the people in there. Now, I've heard
like a Halliburton or something like that.
Yes, I've heard the number $2 trillion in the last 20 years. I don't know if you've ever heard of Jimmy Dore, the Jimmy Dore show.
No, I don't think so.
I love the Jimmy Dore show to provide a fresh perspective. Now, he has a lot of people on, but it's people you will never hear on any of the mainstream news.
What is his source? Where will I find his broadcast?
Or he's on YouTube.
YouTube, okay.
Yeah. Now he's got his own site and everything, but YouTube is the perfect place to get. And he's a comedian. Now,
is he political in nature, or is he informational in nature?
No, extremely political.
Okay.
And you will find he's very slanted, but he's basically slanted against everybody in power, because just as I have become, he is, I think, he believes that it doesn't matter which team is in, the red or the blue, it's all the elites, and they are really just putting on a show for the people, so that everybody's in the two camps. You're either team red or team blue. And that's what I was talking about before, that they have found a way to split up every issue to get the same people on each side. So that makes every issue very emotional and very easy for the red and blue teams to attract more people, because they've got it so perfectly separated between the two of them. Anyways, Jimmy Dore has people on talking about the Afghanistan situation, and now they're talking about how it's a bad thing that Biden took the troops out and they're leaving the people in a terrible situation. But he still acknowledges we shouldn't have been there for the last 20 years. And he said it's been $2 trillion, and he said $300 million a day over the last 20 years. And I said, that doesn't sound right. 300 million a day equals 2 trillion in 20 years. So I did a quick math, and it is like $274 million a day, every single day for 20 years. So that money,
And by the way, what was the infrastructure package that was just bipartisanly passed? What was the? Do you remember what the number was on that
I
package?
don't.
$1
don't.
trillion dollars.
Wow. Well, but that's
So,
what. But what is that? A 4-year thing? So
but think about that though. $2 trillion spent on another nation essentially for 20 years versus $1 trillion to improve the aging and crumbling infrastructure in your own nation.
yeah, and
Doesn't it seem like $1 trillion in infrastructure? You drive to work, you know what M59's like.
yeah,
It's a nightmare in some cases.
yeah. So I I don't necessarily agree with Jimmy Dore on exactly how to spend that 2 trillion, but he talks, he's a big advocate for Medicare for all. And I agree with him from this respect. I would much rather the US got out of every single country across the planet and take that money and put it towards humanitarian within our own country.
I've always felt that way. Always felt like it's better to help the homeless crisis in the United States. Better to help this nation than it is other nations. Don't even get me started. This is one way where I am very red and very, very right skewing. Don't even get me started on the southern border. There's another example though where that you're not helping your own people. So
yeah. So
and by the way, is his name really Jimmy Dore?
Yeah. D-O
Stage name?
I think it's Dore, but okay. He's hilarious, and he if you subscribe to the podcast, it starts everyone with a phone call from a fake celebrity. I mean, he's got the president, Al Pacino. Al Pacino is really, really funny, but Noam Chomsky, I mean, all kinds of people that they get, and it's the same guy who does all the impressions. He's just really good. He's really good.
Speaking of media, I'm curious to know your stance on. I feel like you'll probably listen to him. I am familiar with Clay Travis. Clay Travis, the man that took over the Rush Limbaugh program after his passing.
I don't know him. I don't know.
You have not listened to him yet. Okay. No. How about oh no, it's been too long. How about Will? Oh, what was his name? I can't remember his last name. He had a show on ESPN and he left for Fox News on the weekend. Will, I cannot remember his name, but I'm familiar with Clay Travis, and I was curious to know if you had listened to his program, because I think he's on the same EIB stations that Rush Limbaugh was on.
Well, this is a good topic, though. ESPN. What the heck does ESPN have to do with politics? Because
it shouldn't have anything to do with politics, but ESPN tends to get very political with many things. And so so Clay Travis was not on ESPN, he was on Fox Sports Radio.
Yeah. Okay.
But again, a sports background. He was on Fox Sports Radio, and he also hosted a gambling show where he has some knowledge. He's in the know about the gambling world. I cannot remember Will's name, but he was on from 3 to 6 on ESPN Radio. What ends up happening is You get big viewership. Or well, and in Will's case, his show was simulcast on ESPN News, so it was listenership and viewership. So you get big viewership, and in these bigger numbers, you get a more eclectic and wider version of listener. So things do tend to turn political, and in your debating with somebody, political things can come up regularly, like racial strife, gender equity, southern border. I mean, that affects the sports world because there are some of these leagues are very international with their players, and these things come up, political conversations happen, and they grow, and it grows into this person grows into this different version of him or herself, and the cable news networks decide, you know what, we want this person, and that's what ends up happening.
So, but why do things turn political? My theory is that, when you look back at the news 30, 40 years ago.
Will Kane. I had to look up his name. Will
Kane. I've never even, I don't recall ever even hearing that name. Anyway, 30, 40 years ago, the news, well, maybe it's got to be 40. The news was something that happened for an hour in the evening on a TV station.
Walter Cronkite, the most trusted man in America.
Then it became 24-hour news on cable stations, where that's all they did. So then news went from being more of a, from your time in radio, a radio station is obligated to play certain if there's an announcement that goes out from the government for the public well-being or something, they're obligated to send that out.
And I worked for a radio station that was one of the 26 chosen ones in the United States to disseminate information in the worst of catastrophes, in a nuclear event. So, oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So it didn't used to be that news had to generate revenue. News was them giving back to the community, so to speak, right? They take the revenue from their primetime lineup and everything, and they take a cut of that and they provide you with the news.
Mm-hmm.
The new era that came from having 24-hour news cycle is news had to generate revenue, because that's all you had on that station. So it had to be self-sustaining. So this is why when we thought, with 24-hour news, we're going to be able to get deep into all these stories. We're going to be able to get additional stories from around the world. No, we take like 4 stories a day and just keep churning through them over and over, the same 4 stories, because they don't want to spend the money sending people all over the world. They don't want to spend the money sending somebody for a month going through documents to put the story together. They need something quick, fast, get it on there. We need something sensational. Well, what's added to the trouble is with the internet, people's eyes are now being drawn to this phone that's always in their pocket all the time.
Yeah.
And so the news media is competing with that. And the only way you can get their eyes off their phone screen is to have something sensational and emotional to and it doesn't matter if you like it or hate it. You just need to have an emotional response to it. That's all they care about, because that's what we're finding out with Facebook and with YouTube. Did you know on YouTube, it doesn't matter if you thumbs up or thumbs down. The fact that you're interacting with it is what promotes the whatever the video is. And I'm assuming it's the same thing on YouTube or on Facebook, that it's just the fact that you have elicited a response from whoever watches it.
I did not know that, because most YouTubers will say, please like
Click
and
like, subscribe. Yep,
because
yep.
if you like, it tells YouTube to disseminate this video to a larger group of people.
Yep. But
Because
the biggest thing is
they-
that you leave a comment. If you leave a comment, that is the most interaction, and that's worth even more than a thumbs up or thumbs down.
And currently, I watch the majority of my YouTube videos on my Roku, so I do not have the ability to interact.
Oh,
I have the ability to like, dislike, thumbs up, thumbs down, or subscribe.
okay.
So,
Gotcha.
I do not typically comment. I have, I know that this has happened to you, but I believe I have reached social media saturation. I don't know how much more social media I can handle. Social media has allowed a large group of people to be morons, and I don't like that.
Yeah.
It has emboldened people that the bully behavior is acceptable. And
No, it's not acceptable. It is promoted and championed.
yes,
It is encouraged people to be to go on the attack. It increases your visibility. The more crazy the behavior, I mean, it's all Jerry Springer all the time.
and he doesn't even have to do a TV show anymore. In fact, he does a straight show where he's actually a judge, Judge Jerry. He actually
Really?
no cases. Yep. So that'll show you how much it's flipped on its head. He doesn't do that anymore. He does real stuff. I was thinking about the bully behavior the other day, and I came up with this analogy. In the advent of the internet, at first, the internet was this fun and interactive way to communicate with people and stuff. And then it turned into the Wild West, and it's widely gambling and pornography. Then it became the champion of the bully behavior. And I was thinking, if the internet didn't exist, or if the bully behavior was, heaven forbid, governed, or just was never widely accepted, so it never caught on. How did we learn the bully behavior was the way to go? The only thing I can think of that even comes close to bully behavior is road rage. 30 years ago, if you had a near traffic incident, you get into a shouting match with somebody and you show people different versions of fingers on your hand. And you might get over and you might get in a fight. That was at least in my opinion, that was the origin of the bully behavior.
Yeah.
It's gone it's so out of control. There's somebody that we know, well, at least that I knew, somebody that went to our high school a couple years behind us, posted something on Facebook about simply liking an old school rap group and a certain song. And another person that graduated from our high school in the same grade, class of 95, I believe, lambasted him for liking this, and he didn't grow up in the streets. And it just turned into this 58 comment group of complete nonsense. And you know what it made me want to do? It made me want to say to the troll, you really, really do need to explore inside of you and figure out why you do this.
Yep.
and for those reasons, we have to chop you. Basically, is I can't, I struggle very much with that, and I mean, I in the past I've been caught up in an argument here and there, but I mean, it's been 8 or 10 years since. I mean, I just I'm getting close to reaching social media saturation. Now, I'll tell you what I don't want to be. I don't want to be a hypocrite. And I do not want to post on social media that I'm done with social media. That is the definition of hypocrisy.
Yeah.
And I try very hard not to be a hypocrite, but I have I'm getting close. I have a Twitter account because I've tweeted exactly 3 people and they're all sports media types. And it's not political shows. It's for fun. And, sometimes they read them and sometimes they don't. I tweeted Will Kane once or twice. He'd read the thing on air and we'd have, it's fun. It's fun to interact.
Wait a minute. He read your tweet on air.
Yeah.
Did he give you credit?
He didn't really, there wasn't a bully attitude either way. So
no, but he didn't.
Did he credit me? Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
My name. Yes.
But the most important thing, did you get followers out of it? I'm just kidding.
I said, be sure to like and subscribe.
Yeah, but isn't it sad though that I don't want to say as a society we accept the bully behavior, but it is what is required in order to ensure the most eyes continue to look at something.
You've got to stand out if you've
got to have that. Yes, because otherwise, think about how much rivalry is already in sports. If that's not enough rivalry, that you've got to bring politics into sports, that there's not enough between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Philadelphia Eagles for there to be rivalry there, or between Pennsylvania and Ohio. What in the world?
Oh, now you did it. You brought up sports. So now I need to bring up something sports related that affects your world. Your boy, Miguel Cabrera, hit his 500th career home run today.
I saw it on a billboard, which is only possible because they're electronic.
I was going to say, if it said congratulations on 500, it happened today in Toronto. So it either somebody went up there and started gluing it, or it's electric. It's electric. I can see it right now. Climb up that ladder and get your glue and put up this new billboard.
Yeah, but dude, it's hilarious because it was on my way home that I saw the billboard, and it literally, I had no idea. I don't know who the guy is. I didn't know what the 500 was, but I just remember looking at it thinking, shouldn't there be a period in front of the 5? Because it's a batting average, right? I thought it was a batting average.
Yeah, if it's batting average, yes, it would be a period in front of it because that's exactly, it's at bats divided by hits. Exactly.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Reached baseball immortality by hitting his 500th career home run. That's only happened, 35 times in the history of baseball or something like that. It's happened more lately. The home run has increased, but he's also something like 40 hits away from 3,000 career hits, which is also baseball immortality and guaranteed to be a Hall of Famer. So
as long as he doesn't bet on it, right?
Exactly. Better on now. That's right.
I still harbor a grudge over that. I think Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame, and I go to my grave with that.
I love your sports stuff. But to answer your question, why things have become political on ESPN is because they're the 24-hour sports station. They need live programming. So what they used to do is they used to broadcast the same hour or two of SportsCenter like 10 times during the day. They can't do that anymore because of this. You can get everything you need right here.
Yep.
So now they need live programming. So instead of doing Sports Center at 11 and then Sports Center at 2 Eastern after the games on the West Coast end, and then just replaying 2 at 3 and at 4 and at 5 and at 6. Now it's at 7 a.m. We do a new show.
Oh my goodness. All day long.
It's 7 a.m. now it starts, and it's new shows the rest of the day.
Oh.
For roughly 6 to 8 of those hours, they're talk shows. The show's called First Take, and it's people debating things for 2 hours. The show before it is called I don't watch a whole lot of TV in the morning, especially now that I'm working at home. I could. It's called Get Up.
Dude, I think you froze. Did you freeze? It looks like you are very satisfied with your get up comment. I can't hear you.